Hey guys, welcome back to the channel here where we are continuing our watch segment, and this is the third episode in regards to this, as we broke it into three parts because the videos happen to get really long. So now we are jumping into tier 4 watches, that I'm labeling them tier 4. Some people may agree or not agree with it. Some things within the tier 3 range actually price wise would have gone into the tier 4, but I kind of broke them up in that way because I also know name wise they don't have the same name. And what we're getting to right now for the 4 is what's known in the watch community as the Holy Trinity, which I mentioned in my previous watch about my previous video on watches about the perception of watches. And so the Holy Trinity, and as I break each one down, just know that these are the ones that, though they are not going to be as widely known as the original tier 2 ones I mentioned, Tag Heuer, Breitling, Omega, Rolex, for when it comes to luxury watches, because the average person will probably only be able to afford the ones I just mentioned and of tier 2, and that would kind of be more appeal to the masses. But a lot of people have heard of these watches before, even if it's just briefly, and they understand that they're considered the upper echelon, the very ceiling of watch collecting, or just having, even if you aren't like a major watch collector, but you just want to have a watch prestige wise, these are that upper tier, along with the fact that you hear them in music and in entertainment. And then if you are into watches, or you are just very financially well off, you're gonna know about these brands, because this is where you would go to when there's when you come into that kind of range where you're like, well, I want to know what's above a Rolex. What I have money for above a Rolex, what am I going to be looking at? It's kind of similar to the way the average person might aspire to, say, get a Mercedes or a BMW. But if you are a millionaire, or you have several millions, you're gonna say, okay, I can have that, and maybe I'll have a Mercedes as my regular car, but I also want to know what's higher than that because I got the money for it. And that's kind of where the Holy Trinity falls into. If you have the money for it, you're gonna know about it because you're gonna be curious to know what is at that higher ceiling range. And so we're gonna start off with Audemars Piguet, which their most popular watch is the Royal Oak. And just going on the price range within the watches that someone would actually purchase from them, I came up with a price range of $28,000 to $38,000, and these are just for like their basic models within the ones that are very popular. Now, this doesn't mean they don't go way above that, because they do. They have special complications that will have annual calendars, that will have tourbillons, that will have all types of complications that start getting into the 100,000 range and way above that. So don't think that they are short in their prices when it comes to where they can go. But what the range I just gave you, 28,000 to 38,000, is more reflecting on, one, what somebody who is well off but would be watching this video would probably be aiming for, because somebody who's super wealthy and has millions of dollars is just going to go into the store and just say, give me whatever you can give me, assuming that the availability is there. They're not even going to care about things like that price range. So this is more for the average consumer who might be able to afford that and what they would be looking at. And so 28,000 to 38,000, and like I said, their most popular is the Royal Oak, though they have different variations of it, whether it's in a 3-hander with a calendar, or maybe a chronograph. For the most part, those are the versions of it that typically will be purchased. Not too many people are looking to buy the annual calendar version of the tourbillon version, which starts to go way high in price. Next, we have Patek Philippe, which is a very, obviously, once again, very known brand when it comes to the upper echelon. And I put their cost range at $32,000 to $51,000 for their more popular lines, focusing on stainless steel, obviously, because like I said, the precious metals get very expensive for this, as well as the very major complications. And complications is what you call the, things like a date function, calendar function, tourbillon, stopwatch, all that kind of stuff. So in their kind of more basic range, their most popular watch is the Nautilus, which has a very similar style to the Audemars Piguet's Royal Oak. Both were designed by the same guy, Gerald Genza. Now, they have a kind of boxy presence to them, very angular, but they're not square, and they have an integrated bracelet. That is the range for that one, 32,000 to 51,000. This is where someone will go if they have the money for it. If you have that kind of money. Patek Philippe is very popular, so it's very well known also in the entertainment field, also, and shouted out in music as well. Sometime, my Patek, they'll say, I got my Patek on the wrist, or whatever the case is. So that's another one that falls into that general range. And I think those two of the Holy Trinity, as they call it in the watch world, are the more popular of the three and the ones that are more well known. Now, the last one I'm going to mention, I don't think is as well known. I'm very sure it's not as well known, but it's still considered part of the Holy Trinity, though some people like to say a Lange Sohne is almost like the forgotten stepchild of the Holy Trinity and think that it should be there in place of the next one. But nonetheless, everyone unanimously in the watch world considers these three to be the Holy Trinity. And this last brand is Vacheron Constantin. Now, I have it at a range of 25,000 to 35,500. Now, once again, like I said before, they have complications and whatnot. They could bring it up to a far larger price range, but this is just going based off their more popular models in stainless steel. For them, they have a watch similar to the other two ones that I mentioned. They're popular ones similar to the Nautilus and the Royal Oak, and it is called the Overseas, and it has a very similar style, integrated bracelet design, I'm pretty sure, and a kind of very angular kind of design as well. It's not as popular as the Nautilus by Patek Philippe or the Royal Oak by AP. AP for short for Audemars Piguet, for the AP Royal Oak. But it's generally speaking an equal alternative, and often is usually a little bit more affordable because it's not as popular. You can usually find it at better rates, at least on the used market. But anyway, so these are the Holy Trinity of watches. Anyone who is wealthy or famous often has one of these inside the collection, unless they're just not really that big into watches. They may just have Rolexes, and I've seen that before too, when you watch certain like videos showing famous people show off their collections. But generally speaking, this is the tier 4, and we've run through the tiers. And if you want to find one that fits you in terms of a watch, you have an idea now, a basis to what to look for depending on what your budget is. But generally speaking, I'm going to assume, and I could be wrong, so don't take this the wrong way, but I'm going to assume that most of the people who are probably watching this channel probably will be looking for something in the tier 1 or tier 2 range, which is fine. And you have a very lot of nice watches within inside that range. I would say that there's nothing wrong with, if you're just starting off, buy maybe about a 2 or 3 watch collection in the tier 1 range, just to kind of have something to kind of mix things up with. Maybe you got a sports watch on a rubber band that you use for work, maybe even like a G-Shock or whatever the case is. And then, on the nights you want to go out, you have one that is on a metal bracelet, and then you might also have one that's on a leather bracelet to be a little dressy. So there's nothing wrong with that, and starting a collection like that. It doesn't mean that you're a collector necessarily if you don't want to view yourself in that way, but sometimes you just want to have those options to switch it up when you need to. And then later on down the line, once you have a kind of sense of your taste, you can go into the tier 2 options, get your first luxury watch, maybe a Tag, maybe a Breitling, maybe Omega, or maybe you want to go straight to a Rolex, which is fine as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. So consider that, And yeah, like I said before in the very beginning, on the early videos of the channel, that definitely it's good to have a watch as an accessory, especially for men, because for men this is our primary and sometimes our only accessory. So I definitely recommend that you have a watch, but I definitely also recommend that you have more than one, because you don't want to wear the one that you're going to use to go on a night in town with as the one you use for work, especially if you have a physical job where it's getting beat up all the time, getting scratched up. You don't want to do that. You want to preserve it, so that way when you go on a night of town, it doesn't look like it's getting beat up. You'll cherish it more to know that you don't wear it every day and it's your special occasion watch. So that's something to think about. And if you guys have any kind of questions or anything, post them inside the comments below, or even just any thoughts, or maybe what your watch collection is, or anything that maybe you want to throw out there as advice for people who are looking to get into purchasing a watch, whether it's luxury or whether it's non-luxury. Just people who are looking to get into that space, just to say, I need to accessorize. Maybe they went down that route. They have a suit, they have nice things, they look nice, they just need that final piece to their wardrobe, just to kind of just close that chapter and make sure that everything's complete, full. They have their everyday carry, they have their wallet, they have all that other stuff. They just need a watch. So post in the comments if you have any thoughts on that, or any recommendations if you want to throw out there. And with that being said, we're gonna end the video. I'll catch you guys in the next one.